Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said on Tuesday that China maintains its long-standing position on, quote, crisis in Ukraine, and that dialogue and negotiations are the only way to resolve it. It added that Beijing is ready to support all efforts aimed at restoring peace. Simultaneously, Beijing deepens ties with both Russia and India, lifting export bans and calling for dialogue over confrontation. Now, how does this pivot toward New Delhi reshape global power dynamics? Joining us today on TVP World to unpack China's role is Tomasz Łukaszuk, research scientist at the University of Warsaw and former Polish ambassador to Indonesia and India with extensive expertise in Asian diplomacy and global security affairs. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning.
Now, China claims it supports peace in Ukraine, but I'm very curious about how credible it is given its alignment with Moscow.
This is a real test for Chinese credibility of Chinese diplomacy because, first of all, China uses the language of Russia, calling it crisis, not aggression, not war. Secondly, China is all the time saying about peace and world order, and at the same time is facilitating Russia with dual-use products and not speaking about the recent race in the oil and gas imports from Russia to China, because the India followed the demand from President Trump to cut short its oil and gas trade with Russia. So they cut it by almost 60%, but immediately China stepped in and increased by the same percentage the import of oil from Russia. So the question is, what kind of cards would like China to play with President Trump? We have to remember that in the Trump's administration interim defense strategic guidance prepared by Peter Hegseth, China is located at the same place as at the first term of President Trump. It means the centrality of Chinese challenge and the main competitor threatening U.S. interests regionally and globally. Now is the question, so what kind of positioning would China choose? And Another question is certainly as you mentioned, the cooperation with India and cooperation with Russia and strengthening the level of cooperation and the rank of BRICS as well as international organization, and kind of alternative to what President Trump and Western countries are proposing.
Right, now, I'm also curious about how China is strengthening its relationship with India as well, given recent tensions between the U.S. and India about the secondary sanctions. Is that going to impact U.S. and EU interests now that the two countries are cooperating closer together?
Well, I would say this way, from our European perspective, we always, if we have, let's say, not good relations with particular country, so both political and side and economy, they are limited contacts, and we are limiting trade, we are putting sanctions, and we're taking other steps. In case of Asian Pacific, is a different situation. What India is now, let's say, modulating and creating is the pattern which is applied by Japan with its relations with China. It means the cold policy and the warm economy. It means that India is pretty aware of the threat caused by Chinese competition in the neighborhood, and not speaking about the Indian Ocean and South China Sea. But at the same time, India also is pretty aware of the fact that the Chinese investments and Chinese trade nowadays are the biggest for them and are the most significant in the strategy of becoming the third economy in the world. So it means that we cannot look at the contacts and meetings of Prime Minister Modi or Foreign Minister Jaishankar with Foreign Minister Wang Yi as a kind of, rapprochement. It's a long-term strategy of India of decreasing the tension at the border with China, and let's say utilizing the pivoting diplomacy, and also trying to implement the principles also the discuss with Chinese. I mean, the so-called three mutuals. I mean, the mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest. And India is really very pragmatic in its relations with China. So it's, as I said in the beginning, so it's a bit different approach than by the European countries.
Right, so I want to unpack that a little bit. Like you mentioned, this cold policy and a warm economy is a different approach from how Western countries conduct policy and business. But do you think that this is mostly driven by necessity, or is it more of a cultural thing?
It's both. It's both. I mean, necessity is, having the biggest population in the world, and also trying to push out of poverty the dozens of millions of people, and at the same time trying to catch up with the international competition. I think India has to be really very pragmatic. And at the same time, the cultural thing is India is a cradle of Hinduism, of Buddhism, and many other religions. The India's policy, it's sometimes it's like Mr. Jaishankar said, to understand India's foreign policy, you have first to read Ramayana. I mean the old Hindu books, and not speaking about treaties, and then you will understand this balancing act of India, and trying to avoid the confrontation and trying to avoid the war. We have to remember that India and China, they coexist together for the last 6,000 years, and only one real war happened in 1962 between those two regional powers.
Right, now, with China being such a powerhouse in production and a lot of attempts from European countries to cut out its kind of economic influence being relatively futile, do you think that EU countries will eventually have to also adopt the same pragmatic strategy when it comes to dealing with authoritarian countries?
Definitely, yes. I mean, this is what India also called the strategic autonomy. I mean, you have strategic partners, but at the same time, you have to keep top of your agenda your own interest, and you have to balance between your interest and your good relations with another country. And as Ursula von der Leyen emphasized, also the recent EU-China summit that China is seen as a competitor, but at the same time is a strategic partner. So we have to really to balance it, and at the same time we have to understand also the interests of the United States. So in terms of, we have to understand the different areas. I mean, the military area, where China is a real threat to the United States and to several countries in the transatlantic area, and at the same time, we for all of us, including the European Union, not speaking about India, China is the biggest trade partner.
Right. So how to balance that going forward? Of course, it's definitely going to be a very hard topic going forward.
We cannot confront to China. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.